Happy Pride, everyone! Technically, it's not Pride Month yet, but it will be soon. Pride Month is a celebration of just being happy with who you are, no matter what you identify as or who you consider yourself. It's just a month for everyone to feel a little good about themselves. And I wanted to express that in a piece of artwork that I drew when I was just feeling particularly happy about myself, which, you know, it's worth celebrating. It doesn't happen very often. And so I also decided, why not record the whole process? I'm sure someone out there might be curious to know how I draw things. Overall, this drawing took, I think, about 6 hours, or maybe 5.5 hours in total. But I'm just gonna go over to basically just kind of talk about how I draw things in general on Photoshop. So, obviously, like every artist in the entire world, I start off with a sketch. I started with something pretty, like, still and stiff, and I knew that typically I have this bad habit of drawing things pretty stiffly, so what I do is I'll draw a sketch first, and then I'll kind of lower the opacity and just draw over it. That way, because if I just delete it and redraw, I don't know if I'm actually making any progress or not, and it's good to like build off of what you drew beforehand. And so you'll see me kind of go through multiple iterations of sort of what kind of pose I want to be in. Essentially, the idea behind it was just me kind of being like with rainbows bursting out of me as sort of like a I wanted to capture how amazing but kind of overwhelming identity can be and feel like. To be a little fourth wall breaky here, I feel like one of the things that has held me back from doing a lot of speed draws is just like, it's kind of hard to talk over a speed draw. Like, I don't even know what to say during certain parts of this, because either like too much is happening or not enough's happening and I'm just rambling. So hopefully I'm going to be editing most of this, because it's a lot of rambles and stumbling. So now I'm going over the sketch with like actual fine lines and like kind of narrowing down what I actually want it to look like through all of the jumble and jargon. And then after that, it's going into coloring. You may notice that I darkened the background, and that's just so that I can sort of actually capture, I want to fill it in with all like the darkest shades first, and then I'll add lighting to it later. But basically, what would this drawing look like if there was no light sources, essentially, is what I'm trying to go for. And so the dark gray just kind of helps me get darker colors, because I feel like compared to a white background, anything looks dark, and then when you like look at it, it's just a way to help me with So my phone camera ran out of storage, but that's okay because this is a speed draw and you don't really need to see my face anyways. And then so now you can see me starting to apply like the first bare, like one, just focusing on one light source, which I determined was coming from below. I wanted to give it a sense of like whimsy, but also like a little bit of intensity. So, but yeah, I'm sort of starting off just figuring out like what it looks like when light hits it, and then after that going in and figuring out what kind of shadows it casts and whatnot, but really just taking it one step at a time. Here I am sort of blocking out the colors of the blobs that I want, just to sort of get a sense of what kind of colors are going to be shining onto my character. And then you'll see me just kind of continuing to add more light sources, maybe coming from the side this time. And really, I know a lot of people ask about like brushes and stuff, but up to this point, it's basically just the default airbrush, like nothing too fancy going on just yet. So basically, now I'm getting into the more refined details when it comes to the lighting. Just adding it where I think it feels right. Honestly, like my sense of lighting isn't like entirely professional. I just kinda do it based off of what I think might look right and like maybe a little observation. But generally, it's just kind of following my gut. And so now I'm kind of focusing more on the colors and how they're going to affect the character. So what kind of lighting's going to happen with all of these rainbow splorges around my character. And it's kind of just this for a pretty long time. I mean, this is honestly a pretty big favorite of mine. I feel like it really comes together, and you can start seeing it turn three-dimensional, which is a freaking awesome thing to see from a two-dimensional illustration. I also forgot to mention, but separating the different components onto different layers really helps. You can see that I've started like labeling the different layers, which honestly I don't usually do, but it definitely helps stay more organized, and it speeds up the oh my god, magic carp. Magic carp jump scare. But anyways, back to it. But yeah, so as you can see, it's already starting to take shape. It's starting to look more three-dimensional, and that's just a result of adding like more than one light source is when it really just starts feeling three-dimensional. And it's feeling pretty good, but now it's not done yet. I'm still adding like details to like the cloth and stuff, just adding different shadows. Cloth is really hard to sort of figure out, especially with all the wrinkles, because if you do too little, it feels too smooth. But if you do too much, it can start to look a little like dirty and gross and wrinkly. And so I was trying to find the right balance between that. Luckily, I was wearing like a pretty similar looking shirt, so I was just kind of checking that while I was doing this. So again, I didn't really have much reference for like what cloth looks like when it's being blown in the air, which honestly, I probably should have looked up some reference, but I didn't. But yeah, as you can see, it's not looking quite right, but I was fine with it. I figured I could fix it later. But at this point, I'm just adding the patterns on the cloth. I have this shirt with like these like cool rainbow patterns on them, and so I figured that would be perfect for my pride persona. And it's just a really neat jacket that I wear. And so now I'm going back in and just kind of adding more shadows. And it can be kind of scary to add really harsh shadows, but part of it is just kind of trusting yourself and trusting the process of art. Yeah, I was a little scared, especially since my process of drawing can be very destructive. I merge layers all the time, so there's no going back when it comes to me drawing. Here I'm doing this new technique that I sort of discovered when drawing my OC sky. It's using the speckly brush and then using the path blur and directionally blurring the specks and basically smudging it up. And what that does is that it kind of gives this feeling of fuzz. It makes things look like fuzzy in a direction, which is perfect for cloth and hair and stuff. And this is just the texturing part. Also a very fun process because it really just like turns... It really does also bring it to life. A lot of the stages of bringing an art piece to life bring it to life. The eyes were kind of tricky to me because I have this habit of making eyes look like they're really bulging out, and I didn't want that to entirely be the case, but I also didn't want the eyes to feel flat. So I also noticed that I kind of made the skin a little way too dark, or at least a little way too much in the shadows, and so I was fixing that. So yeah, at this point it's just kind of finicking around with all the little details and stuff. At this point I'm also kind of just like postponing working on the background, and I know it can be kind of hard to I know it can be kind of dangerous to focus so much on the details, but I think after you feel satisfied enough with the bigger picture, then you kind of earned yourself getting into the details. It's a little treat for you. And so here I'm starting to add the different like me's coming out. I wanted it to feel very like whimsical in the sense of like I wanted it to feel like light glares or like maybe aurora borealises. I don't know, just something very like ghostly but wonderful and colorful. So I wanted everything to just feel very floaty. And I also wanted them to kind of blend in with each other. So it's like this very strange collage of selves. And you can see me flipping it around a bit. That's just so that I know that I'm not drawing anything like off balanced and like everything looks fine even when you flip it around, so that I'm not leaning more towards one way or the other, and to just like help with symmetry and stuff like that. But yeah, here I am, as you can see, just going straight in with an airbrush, just straight onto the layer, not even making multiple layers. Like I said, very destructive process. I don't know if it's a good thing, but it's just the way I work, I guess. I'm also using the smudge tool a little bit to shape around the colors that I already had laid down, so that's always very helpful. And at this point I was like, okay, it's kind of turning out the way I wanted it to be. It doesn't look exactly the way I thought of, but again, it's really hard to draw something and make it look exactly like the way you've envisioned it, for better or for worse. I mean, you know, there are aspects of this that I just like didn't really think through, and so seeing it visualized at all was just like, oh, that's fine. But I still felt like there was something missing. I ended up adding this like huge rainbowy effect. Okay, hear me out. Oddly, watching by watching the movie Turtles all the way down, the movie adaptation of John Green's book, that movie has so many of these like sunlight flares, and they look really like rainbowy and weird, and so I kind of studied that to see how that worked and applied it here. And as you can see, I'm going back into the person, me, and then just like fixing up the lighting a bit, making sure that it's a little more brightened up, because I felt like it was being too dark, and also I wanted to add some more contrast, some more interest going on. And at this point I was very happy with it, but still not completely satisfied. Oh yeah, and don't forget cuffing the jeans, obviously. But now I wanted to add a more distortion to me. I added just different versions of myself behind to sort of like have them like really like filtering out as if I'm like glitching, sort of. I don't know, I was just messing around, seeing what looked right. A lot of my process in general is just messing around and seeing if it looks right. But here I am just kind of going through and matching up the colors a bit, just to see how it would turn out. I wanted it to look really powerful, but beautiful and serene as well. It's really hard to describe, but I just wanted to capture this very specific feeling through my drawing. And honestly, I'm pretty proud of the way that it turned out, ultimately. Yeah, I really enjoyed playing around with all these colors. Oh, and then here I go back again with the whole path blurring of the speckles, just to give it more power to the whole thing. I even added a bit of like channel blurring to it to make it feel kind of, you know, light-like. But yeah, that's pretty much it. 6 hours of drawing, and this is how it turned out. Ultimately, pretty proud of this piece. I like the way it turned out, and I think it did a pretty good job at capturing the feeling that I wanted to catch, which was just the strange, confusing, beautiful mess that is identity and how we see ourselves. But yeah, happy early Pride, I guess. This is the end of the video. I never know how to end these. But yeah, check out other videos, and if you like this one, let me know. Yeah. That's it.